FL Studio 20 is finally here, and in this review, I'm going to show you some of the key features and changes in this new major update. FL Studio is now finally available on Mac, which is great news for the Mac users out there. As I'm sure you've noticed by now, they've skipped version 13 and went straight to 20 instead. The main reason for this is to celebrate the 20th anniversary of FL Studio. Believe it or not, this piece of software is now 20 years old. How about that? It sure has come a long way from those early days. I won't be covering everything because there's a lot to dive into, but I'll cover the most exciting stuff. So let's get to it. Arguably, the most important feature so far has to do with the Pdc system. PDC, or APDC as it's called, stands for Automatic Plugin Delay Compensation. This system is always working in the background, making sure that all your sounds stay synchronized. Whenever you add a plugin, it will always introduce some latency to your project, and if that's not compensated for, then your various sounds won't be in sync. To solve this, every DAW out there uses delay compensation. In the earlier versions of FL Studio, the PDC has always been somewhat flawed. It doesn't always work, which will be obvious to anyone trying to connect external gear, such as the Access virus, for example. The PDC also breaks down when you start doing fancy routing in the mixer. Like if you try to use a send track, for example, then the send track won't be delay compensated. There are workarounds that can make life easier by using a third track, for example, but that doesn't always work either. The good news is that now in FL Studio 20, the Pdc system has been completely redesigned. It should now simply just work all the time, which is great. You won't have to worry about the PDC failing. This is huge. It's one of those things that people have been requesting for years, and now it's finally coming. I can't even imagine how many man-hours it must have taken to get this done. While changes to the PDC may not be that noticeable when you first open FL Studio, something that definitely is noticeable is the mixer. You'll quickly notice that you now have more mixer channels than before. There's now a total of 125 mixer tracks available, and this is just the beginning. There's more to come. While we're in the mixer, if we go here, you'll see that we also have a few extra layouts to choose from too. Another thing you'll notice early on when you open the playlist is that there's been an increase in the tracks here as well. We now have a total of 500 tracks, which should be more than enough for most people. The grouping functionality has also been slightly improved. There's now an arrow displayed on the parent track whenever a group is made. This is a lot more intuitive compared to the earlier versions. You can also choose to completely hide collapsed tracks, which is awesome. Any improvement that will help with organization is more than welcome. Unfortunately, I didn't get my favorite feature request fulfilled this time though, as I was hoping for a true folder track architecture. That would allow you to make groups within groups and such. I'm told that this functionality is going to get implemented further down the line though, so hopefully my wish will come true in the not so distant future. While we're in the playlist, another key feature that's being added is the time signature changes. People have been asking for this for a long time, and many of you probably don't need this, but those who do will be thrilled to finally have this feature. The same goes for the piano roll. Another new feature is the Consolidate option. This makes it easier than ever to freeze a track. You now simply right-click here and consolidate the entire track. You can also choose to consolidate a selection of tracks or clips. This is an awesome workflow improvement. Unfreezing something still requires some work though, so it's not 100% perfect yet, but it's definitely a huge step in the right direction. And this functionality will of course be also improved upon in future updates, so I'm confident that those who keep asking for a true freeze and unfreeze function will be happy in the end. You can also render your patterns to audio directly from the picker panel. Another major feature added to the playlist is the option to have multiple arrangements. This is similar to the scratch pads you'll find in Studio One, for example. This is a major improvement. We can now make several versions of the same project and have it all available from this menu. You can simply choose between them instantly like this. This is huge. Definitely something I'll be using. Quite handy if you want to experiment, but you don't want to mess up the original arrangement. If this was any other DAW, I'd go as far to say that this feature alone would make it worth the upgrade. But as you know, FL Studio has lifetime free updates, so you only pay once. I just can't get over how great this is. Now, there's no need to keep alternate arrangements and such at the end of a project anymore. If I wanted to make a radio edit, I could just copy everything over to a new playlist and have both versions available within the same project. Just be careful not to delete any channels, as those are shared by the different playlist versions. Well, moving on, now we have the option to make clips solid. That looks quite nice indeed. They've also fixed that thing with the border, so now it looks more like it does in Logic. The next feature has to do with recording. If you record directly into the playlist, you'll notice that as you record, the waveform will now be animated in real time.
I can't deny what's possible with you and I. It's chemical, heart and mind. We can go anywhere.
This is a great improvement. Soon, this will work when recording MIDI as well. You've probably also noticed the changes to the toolbar by now. The aim here is to make it more streamlined and customizable, as well as maximize the space available. The pattern and song mode button has also changed, now displaying text instead of just changing color. Not everyone is happy about this, but I'm fairly sure this was done to make it easier for people who are colorblind or those with impaired sight, and you can't really argue with that. Speaking of visibility, another feature that has been added is the high visibility feature. This generally makes things more obvious. If I turn it on, you'll see what I mean. If I open my playlist and my mixer, for example, you can now easily see what's open and what's not. I actually like this a lot. Another useful upgrade. Speaking of upgrades, the Dump Score Log feature now allows you to choose different time settings. You can choose to dump just the last 2 minutes, for example. Another small but important upgrade is that the metronome is now delay compensated by default. Some of you might have noticed that if you turn on the metronome in a large project, it will be out of sync. The solution for this was to manually route it to a mixer track in order for it to become delay compensated. I even made a video about how to do this. From now on, this won't be a problem anymore, which is great news. All of those small updates and fixes like that really add to the whole, making your favorite DAW just so much better than it was before. If you go to the sampler, you'll notice that the pre-computed effects are now back. There's also been changes to Edison, Fruity Reverb 2, and much more, as well as a bunch of bug fixes and general improvements. For a full list of improvements and bug fixes so far, check out the link in the description below. There's a lot more coming, And the best thing is that all these features are free since FL Studio, unlike other DAWs, comes with free lifetime updates. I hope you're as excited about these new features as I am. I'm curious though, what kind of features are the most important to you? What would you like to see added or changed in FL Studio? Let's have a little discussion in the comments below. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, then please give it a thumbs up. As always, if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments below. Feel free to check out my other videos too if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching.